Okay, Don, sorry for interrupting. I want to go to calls soon, but getting up to the point now, they say you can only ask him 5 questions.
Right.
Then you get transferred to Dallas. You learn even more and get told to shut up.
Yes.
And now they release these tapes and all this stuff, and it turns out the FBI knew all along. But before you finish your bombshell story that's totally documented, this is so amazing, what about the issue of you got a guy hanging out with a bunch of serious former military people saying, we're going to kill the president? I mean, if somebody makes a joke and puts Obama on a target at a shooting range, the Secret Service comes out and interviews them, and a few people have shot their mouth off and they've been arrested. I know a guy sent me an email once saying, you know, I'm going to kill Bush. And I thought it was a setup, trying to set me up. So I called the Secret Service, and 2 days later I got sent a Tennessee newspaper. They went to his house. He admitted that, yeah, I planned to do this. Turned out he was a lunatic, and they arrested him. Sure. Okay, so you know, sure, you want to find out who else is involved, but don't you immediately grab this guy if he's recorded by the FBI and informants saying we're going to kill him with a high-powered... I mean, weren't you asking that question, or did they tell you, oh, well, we're not sure if he's serious? Well, I mean, regardless, if somebody starts saying, I'm going to, you know, kill him with a high-powered rifle, don't you get arrested for that?
Well, the problem with it is that in those days the jurisdiction was with the Secret Service. And so since they're asking us for our help to do the background information, I can only do what we're told to do. And as far as going out and taking it on my own to change things or alter things and try to effect an arrest or something like that, you can't do that, because the law says specifically what our jurisdiction as the FBI is and what Secret Service is. So once they asked us for the background, that's all I could do. And, of course,
we know about the Secret Service stand-down, and we know they were planning to kill him in Florida, then Chicago. A Secret Service agent there went public and stopped it there. That's on record. Right. And then they got him in Dallas, and then he gets off the train and brags to the informant, I told you we were going to get him. You think I was joking around here, boy?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the whole sad part about it is that there were a number of little barometers that were telling me that there was something wrong here. And all I did was start totaling them up and adding them up and that to make sure that I was right on the right track in that. But not until 1993 did I get the book High Treason. And in that book, it's the tape recording is actually copied in there, and it tells in there that they're going to kill him from a tall building with a high-powered rifle. And this was said on November the 9th of 63, how he should have never gone to Dallas. Everybody failed, but the thing is that where things are bad, Alex, is that all of this stuff disappeared. All of the information that I did on my investigation concerning Milteer, there's nothing in Washington in the files. I found one document, one piece of paper of the interview of Milteer, and that's not even complete. I mean, there was a number of things I got descriptive data from him and all the other stuff, and I got none of that. The only thing I had was the first front page, and even the front page was altered because the very first question on there that's listed there, I didn't ask him that question. I don't know.
So they're putting fake reports in and expunging the rest. But also in that treason book, you saw clearer than day, bigger than Dallas, Milteer there looking right at Kennedy in the motorcade, and boy, he's got that hawk eye looking at his quarry.
Right. And see, everyone was trying to discredit that photograph, but I know the guy. I stood there and I talked to him, and I interviewed him, and I took material from him, as I said, and you're not going to convince me and tell me that he's 4 inches shorter than the actual individual, because that's Milteer. And when he's standing there looking at the subject, at the target, 2 seconds or 3 seconds before he shot, where are we going with our investigations? How are we going to conduct a proper investigation when we permit all of this stuff to go on? And then they sit and they destroy documents that are supposed to be in the archives and things, and we can't do our investigations that way. And we never. I was totally dismayed as to the lack of what they did in this investigation. I mean, I think my grandson, I said this before, my grandson, who lives in Florida, he's 26 years old, and he could have done a better investigation than these people did. And they did nothing concerning once they targeted Oswald, said Oswald was the shooter, that was the end of it.
And then they got rid of that patsy as well. Bottom line, why are you going public, A, and B, what does this do to your worldview of who runs this country and other things we're told? We now know the Gulf of Tonkin was staged to get us into Vietnam. We now know they used Muslim extremists to overthrow the leader of Iran, who was pro-U.S. We now know that there is a very wicked, cold-blooded criminal group that does whatever they want and gets away with it. And they're so arrogant now, they come out on Fox News and say, yeah, the Marines grow the opium in Afghanistan. I mean, it's so in our face. They lie about WMDs. They get away with murder. I mean, what is true if they've been caught lying about this?
That's an excellent question, and it points directly to what their concern is. I mean, when you take and you multiply what you just said and take a look at everything that's going on in this country, it's scary. And you wonder, people talk in terms of conspiracies and this and that, and they make big issues about them and that, but they are happening.
Well, it's called HT. Yeah. We're going into hyper tyranny. And there, historically, but currently with the evidence, I mean, there's no doubt we're not running this country. Presidents are puppets. And, plus the message that they could kill a president in broad daylight, shoot him in the throat, as witnesses said they saw plumes of smoke and men with guns. Then they killed those witnesses. They could have the brain, and then people point out it's a fake brain, not his brain, so then the brain disappears out of the National Archives.
Right.
You've got them flying the limousine off to be rebuilt immediately. It goes on and on and on. And then I've even interviewed the late mistress of LBJ. And he was at the Driscoll a few days before in Austin. He says, I'm going to kill that SOB. Yeah. And then I've talked to people that when he came out of the meeting at Murchison's house in Dallas, and they said, we're going to kill that son of a bitch. Excuse me, but that's what they said. Yeah. And you got Nixon and all them there, and they did it. They murdered him in cold blood, and it's a message to those of us that can think, yeah, we killed him. What you going to do about it? All these sheep want to believe that a good government's running things. I'm sorry, I'm ranting, sir.
That's okay. No, you have a right to do that, and I respect you for that, because we have to take a serious look at where we're going in this country, and the things that are happening are being surfaced by persons like yourself and Glenn Beck and some other people in that. We have to make the public aware that we've got a serious problem here, and when you can take the life of the president and do whatever you want with that, from that point on, there's nothing else that has to fear you.
Has Glenn Beck covered JFK?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, he does do some good work. I'm sad. I think I actually have seen videos of him criticizing it, but maybe he'll wake up. Maybe he's going in the right direction there, but I guess he is about as good as it gets in mainstream media. It's just that, maybe we should contact Glenn Beck and try to get you on his show. I mean, you're a retired FBI agent. We've got these tapes. This is powerful evidence.
Anything that you can do to help me to get there, that's been my total motivation.
Well, we know, listen. If I wear a "Don't Tread on Me" shirt under a suit, he wears it. If I do jokes and go, oh, I'm afraid, so don't worry. Glenn Beck's people are watching and listening right now, and so I would ask them to have you on. But sorry, sir, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. I appreciate that very much. But what I was going to tell you is that the total picture of this thing, to sum it up in that, is Oswald does not do the shooting, and yet they spent over 2,000 publications naming him and saying this him. I just recently gave a talk, and as soon as I finished making my statement that he had a bullet hole in his throat, and that he didn't do the shooting because he was down in the break room at the exact moment that the shooting was taking place, and that a lady was standing there, and she says, I know that Oswald was the shooter, and I know that he was the person that committed the crime.
And she knows that the Easter Bunny is real as well.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So it's sometimes it's defeating what you're trying to do, but we have to understand that this stuff has been pounded into these people's heads for 47 years that Oswald's a shooter.
Well, by the way, Mr. Adams, you go over the evidence, but backing you up, the Parkland doctors put on the report he'd been shot in the throat. But sure. I don't need to hear it from the doctors. You see him, boom, get hit in the throat, and then he gets shot several more times. I mean, we know what happened, but we have the doctor's own reports. I mean,
sure, Dr. Crenshaw. Charles Crenshaw, and he he administered to him. And first thing he walked into trauma room 1 was as soon as they had the president laying there on the gurney, he said, "Hell, he's got a bullet hole in his throat." And he didn't make his publication, JFK Conspiracy of Silence, until 1992. And the reason that he waited that long was because he was afraid that he would lose his medical profession if he came forth with the truth.
Well, I've interviewed Grudy. He came to one of my events, and he, of course, was the Undertaker.
Okay.
And the FBI came in with Lee Harvey Oswald, put ink on his hand, and to make sure the prints stayed there, and put the prints on the rifle. Did you know that?
I had heard that. There was no prints on the rifle, that they were put on afterwards. And I also know this, that the first weapon that they found in there was a Mauser. And then all of a sudden the Mauser disappears, because there's a picture of a police officer holding the Mauser up in the air. And the next thing, it shows the picture of the man like a Carcona as the the weapon that killed the president. But when if we sat down and we listed all these things, Alex, and marked them as one item of evidence, and that, it would shock you.
Oh, I know. There's just hundreds and hundreds in it.
Sure.
And I've interviewed LBJ's admitted mistress. I mean, it's all on record.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
You talked about that meeting at Murchison's house. When the hell do you ever find LBJ and President Nixon in the same meeting with J. Edgar Hoover? I mean, at Murchison's house, and H.L. Hunt there, and when they said they walked out, a woman overheard President LBJ make a comment that...
that G.D. Kennedy will never bother me again.
Yep.
Never embarrass me again.
Yep. Now, think about that. With the knowledge that all these people had for so long, he was defending the Warren Commission, and the Warren Commission was a joke.
Well, listen, I'm from Austin, okay? And my family's been here since the 50s. And, all of these people involved got off on the power of LBJ and all his gangsters and thugs. They bragged. At cocktail parties, they might as well gone up on church roofs and beat their chest. Yeah. They're very proud of it.
Sure.
I mean, that's an enjoyment for them. And then, the sheeple want to suck their thumbs. Let's take a phone call. Andy in Connecticut, you're on the air with retired FBI agent Don Adams. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Eddie.
I had a quick question for you. I've always been interested in just, I guess, the truth. Real history is way more interesting than the stuff we learn in school. When my father learned that I was getting into conspiracy theories, as he would call them, he got me into JFK because that was always of interest of his. But he said that he will go to his grave knowing that Oswald did it. And he sat me down, and forget what news segment it was, but it was like an hour-long, almost like recreated CGI saying, we're going to find out if there is a conspiracy theory, because JFK was a great president. We want to prove.
And they use fake evidence and all those. I mean, these aren't conspiracy theories. We just gave you facts. Facts.
Andy, when you talk in terms, it is Andy, right?
Yes.
When you talk in terms of a bullet hole in the president's throat, and it doesn't exit the back of his neck, because it went through a windshield, and that slowed the projectile down to where it didn't go through the back of his neck, and that
partially spent.
Yes, and then you have the president, the future president of the United States, Gerald Ford. When he's on that commission, he moves that bullet 5 inches up and 2 inches to the right to be able to put a hole in the back of the neck to be able to say that Oswald shot him from the book depository. So I'm telling you 100%, believe me, Andy, that Oswald did not...
Andy, stay there. Stay there. Everybody stay there.